What is up, comic book fans, readers, collectors, cover lovers? Everyone is welcome here at Nerdy Geeks Comics, no matter how you collect. Welcome back. This is part 2 of Let's Talk Nerdy comic reviews. So I didn't want that last video to go, an hour plus. So I figured let me go ahead and break it up in 2 videos, and you get your first few books over there and then your last few over here. Hopefully you enjoyed that first video. Since I'm recording them on the same day, I have no idea if one did better than the other or if anybody even watched it, But if you can tell the way my reviews started to get a little bit longer, I got more comfortable doing these. So hopefully you didn't just judge the first book I reviewed and then said, oh, that's how it's going to be, I'm out. Because I feel like it may have gotten a little bit more in depth and better as I continue. Either way, here we are at part 2. Let's get to it. So next up, we have Viking Moon. This is issue number 3. So if you didn't read issue number 1 and 2, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis, and then we're going to do a quick synopsis of here. It's basically, you know what, 1 and 2 is basically going to give you a synopsis for this one. Then we're going to get to the spoilers. So this is, you have Vikings landing in the North American continent pre the Pilgrims, which is historically accurate, as Leif Erikson did have detailed maps of the northeastern part of the North American continent. So Vikings were here prior to the Pilgrims and the Spanish ever getting here. So that's what this is. But this is them returning to the New World, and they encounter indigenous people, and they also encounter werewolves. They have never seen anything like the werewolves before, so they are here looking for a new life, a new territory to be, and they encounter these werewolves, and now they're in for the fight of their lives. That's basically the synopsis for 1 through 3. If that sounds like something that interests you, pick them up. I will show you some of the interior artwork, and you can decide what you're going to do with it. So here we finally have a battle between the Vikings and the werewolves. We've had some battles between, maybe 1 or 2 Vikings and werewolves, but not like a full-on battle. As you can see here, they're going all at it. So that's an example of what the artwork looks like. That's what the werewolves look like. So if that sounds like something to interest you, go pick it up. But from here on out, spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled of what's happening in issue number 3, then time to skip to the next chapter. But from here on out, we got spoilers. So if you read issue number 1 and 2, then you know where we left off in issue number 2. Hopefully you remember, because it was a long time ago. I want to say this book took like 4 or 5 months to come out since issue number 2, maybe more. I don't know. But basically, the Vikings found the old stronghold that the previous, exploration of Vikings found, and they were going to get set up right there. And even though it looked like it had been attacked, there was damage everywhere. There was holes in the wall and the doors. There were bodies everywhere of dead Vikings from the battles that they had. But they were still felt like that was their best chance. Instead of building a new stronghold, just patching that one up. It's already built and being there. And then we found out that they were being called out. And as they're called out, we find out that leading the indigenous people is this Viking right here. His name is Thorvald Eriksson. And he basically told them that the previous Vikings were driven out and that they should have heeded the warning from them, but now they're going to meet their death. And what they're telling him is that they got no warning. What they were told is that Thorvald, had been killed, and they came here to start a new life. And if they're going to threaten them, then they're going to meet them in battle because they're not leaving. So that's where we get to the action. So now we have our Vikings and our indigenous people. They're going at it. You can see really fantastic action shots right here. And then we see the Vikings see something that they were not expecting, that the indigenous side and Thorvald have the werewolves with them. And the werewolves now are going to attack the Vikings. So you have him hit them here, and this guy gets his head ripped right off. Great action, great panels, really, really great artwork. Here we have more of the battles going on right here. And then you see this right here. An arrow goes after this guy that the werewolf was about to attack. And the werewolf speaks out, "That was my kill. They're all ours." So now we learn that the werewolves are able to speak. So not only can they communicate with each other, they can communicate with the indigenous people right there. You have this werewolf leaving the battlefield, going to the stronghold. This is the Viking chieftain with the new clan that's been here. He feels like he needs to go protect his daughter who's in there. This warrior says, "Do not worry, no harm will come to her," and he goes out there. These are the Vikings that were left in the stronghold, trying to keep everyone out. And as I said, there were holes, already from a previous battle, and this werewolf knows about it. So he's using that as an exploit to get in there. So he gets in. They prepare for battle. You can see they're protecting the chieftain's daughter right there. And immediately, this Viking gets his head lopped off by the werewolf with one slash. The others attack. He kills them. We're down to this older warrior right here who's still standing his ground, gets taken out. And then here he comes after the girl, and he speaks to her. He says, "Come to me, girl." And then she says, "You speak." And it's at this point that we have another werewolf burst in. He challenges the wolf that's already there. And as he does, you have that Viking who swore to protect the girl come after the initial werewolf. So here we have the chieftain and his wife. She refuses to leave his side. She says that she is not afraid of battle and she will stand with him. As you can see, this werewolf has taken out a lot of the warriors, and he is now going to go into battle with the chieftain and the chieftain's wife. So again, really fantastic story right here. So now we have the werewolf kill that one warrior that promised to protect the daughter. Whenever he turns around, he sees that the girl and the other werewolf are gone. So he comes out to find them. And that's when the chieftain throws the head of the werewolf that was attacking. And this one realizes that not only are the Vikings aren't just talk, they can actually defend themselves as they've killed that werewolf. And he decides to take off from the battle right there, as now he's the lone werewolf on the battlefield. So then we have the chieftain and the remaining Vikings go into the stronghold. They see that everyone has been killed. And that's when the wife, asks, "Where's our daughter?" The chieftain says that, let me read it right here. He says, "I will seek her out, and when I have found the demons who have her, their heads will be mine." So he is meaning business. He knows that the werewolves can be taken out. And then we get to where we see that the other werewolf has taken the daughter. He sets her down, he leaves her there, and then he walks away from her. And it's at this point that we realize that the werewolves are actually the indigenous people of the land. And she actually knows this one. She met him, I want to say in issue number 1 or 2, and she goes to talk to him. And then it's at that point when we also learn that the older Viking is there basically waiting. It's almost like it was a place where he knew to expect to find him. And that's when he tells her that this man not only saved her life, but he basically signed his own death warrant, because what he did is the werewolf that he challenged was not only the alpha, it was his father. So now that he challenged the alpha and disobeyed his father, he signed his own death warrant and basically hers with it. And that's where this issue ends. So fantastic read. I really love this. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to get more in depth with it, Go pick it up. I'm sure you can find issue number 1 and 2. I don't think this is something that's selling out very fast. So go find it, go pick it up. You saw the artwork, you heard with the story, you see the action. Great book. I loved it. Hope you enjoyed the review. Okay, for something a little different, we're going to leave the horror genre and we're going to go to dystopian future. So here we have If Destruction Be Our Lot. This is issue number 1, and this is our main character. It's a robot Lincoln that we're following. So basically, I'm going to do my quick overview, and I enjoyed this book, but this book is not for everyone. It's a slow read. It's an interesting story. It's more of a introspective on what the meaning of existence is and what is existence without purpose. Like, is there any reason to exist if you don't have a purpose? If you're basically just doing the same thing every day, the same cycles, then is that really living? And that's what our main robot right here is thinking about. So if that sounds interesting to you, give it a read. But if you're looking for action, this book is not an action-packed book at all. It is a thicker book. It's a wordy book, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was an interesting read. It was an interesting, introspective of all of that. So I will be picking up issue number 2 because the story does have me intrigued enough to give it another read. But I don't think this is for everybody. If you're looking for something really action-packed, really quick, this is not the book for you. But if you think you can give that, if that sounds interesting to you and you want to give it a shot, give it a shot. I'll show you some of the interior artwork. It's nothing amazing. It's your standard indie stuff. It's nice artwork. It's not bad. I'll give it a B. It's a good read. Basically you're going to be following this Lincoln guy, this robot Lincoln, and it seems like the other robots don't like him because to them he's a fake human. He's made to look human, where they're all the other ones are robotic, and they don't like it. They don't like him for that, is what it feels like. So that's basically your synopsis of this. I liked it, but I will say this is not for everybody. So again, from here on out, spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, go to the next chapter, because from here on out, we got spoilers. Okay, so here we are, the spoiler section. So basically, our Lincoln just basically sits around all day waiting for robots to pass by and starts doing his speech, all the speeches that, Lincoln has ever said. From hence we shall expect the approach of danger, and if destruction be our lot, basically, where they got the title, all that, he says it. The robots who were there like, oh, this guy again, I hate this. I hate one. You can see right there. I hate this effing guy. Like, they do not like him. And then one of them says, oh, I don't know, this is probably the best speech he's done in the last 13,472 days. So apparently, despite the fact that they're robots, sometimes he can perform better than others. And then they also notice that sometimes they do have a little hiccup, and then they need to be reset. So they do reset him. And then after he gets reset, they leave him. They can't stand to be around him. He does seem to have this one friend robot who is a cook type robot, and he asks him, hey, what would you like for me to make for you? And the Lincoln, after his reset, it seems like something happened with him where now he's thinking differently. He's not just repeating what he's always done. And he asked this little droid, like, why do you ask me what I want to eat? When was the last time anybody had told you yes, that they wanted something? So the little droid tells him that it's been 31,755 breakfasts ago was the last time that he asked. And that basically he just says that something bad happened to his humans, that he tried to save them, but in the end he wasn't able to save them. And so we know something bad happened to humans, that these robots were around then, and this one actually remembers but doesn't really go into detail of it. And then the Lincoln basically says that, you know what, I'll take this. So the little robot starts to cook, breakfast. But then he ends up catching fire. And apparently, whenever you start catching fire or getting messed up, there is some type of robot that comes and recycles you. So he takes the little guy, rips him in half over here. You can see that it was toast that was burning in there, and takes him inside to recycle him. And as the last thing he says as he's been taken in is he actually says, I should have done more. I could have saved them. So you can see that he actually regrets, not being able to save his humans. So these robots, despite the fact they're robots, they do seem like maybe over the time they have come to, I don't want to say become sentient, but maybe understand that they did serve a purpose and they no longer serve that purpose, and they feel like they do need purpose. So then at that point, our Lincoln gets hit by a bus. And whenever he gets hit by the bus, the other robots, make fun of him and things like that. He ends up getting on the bus, and the bus is apologizing to him. So you can see the bus right here. This is the conversation that he's having with the Lincoln. And this is where the Lincoln basically starts talking to the bus, telling him, why do you do this? Why do you stick to the same routine? When was the last time you had passengers? And he goes, why have you right now? He's like, true, but before me, you haven't had passengers in years. Why do you continue to run the same routine? And the bus is telling him, well, why not? That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I was designed to do. And he goes, right, but without passengers, what is the purpose? And then the bus ends up, goes to every stop, names the stop, and then it goes out to the edge of where they are, and you see that it looks like we have a wasteland out there. And he goes to the bus stop. The Lincoln gets out because he's never seen that place. He's never been there. And he ends up, the bus tells him, you're okay to look around for a little bit. I won't be turning around for another 10 minutes because that was the routine. He stops there for 10 minutes. Then he goes back and does the exact same routine. But we see that they're at the edge of some type of wall or force field or something like that. And the Lincoln doesn't know what's over there. So he finds this head of an android, throws it, shatters it, and then they get a look at what's outside. And what's outside is basically what you expect. It's more wasteland. So there's more wasteland up there. The bus is saying, hey, you were right. There is something beyond that wall. What was it? But then we have one of these, recycle droids, coming about. And Lincoln knows that the bus is not able to leave for another 5 minutes because it hasn't been there long enough. So basically, he rips off the robot because this robot is different than the bus. The bus has a program that talks to people, but this robot specifically, all it does is it drives. So he rips it out and he takes the control and gets them out of there before that thing is able to recycle him and the bus. So now he's driving, he's going through it, and he's driving through the town. He's almost hitting other robots, and he's still talking to the bus about, what's the point of existing if we don't have a purpose? And basically, this little droid robot attacks him. It doesn't seem like it wants to hurt him. It just seems like it feels like it needs to be driving because that's its purpose, which basically causes them to go out to somewhere that they're not supposed to be, and they wreck. But as they're out there, because they've never been out there, you can see right here, they take that says closed. So nobody ever goes that way. When they go out there on that bridge, he sees a human, or at least he thinks he sees a human, which causes them to wreck. They go off the bridge, they crash, the human ends up running off. And whenever they crash, the bus is now upside down. And the Lincoln is asking, like, did you see that? And the bus is saying, what? And he goes, I thought I saw a human. He's like, but humans don't exist anymore. He's like, I know that, but I swear I saw a human. It looked like a human female. And as they're down there, now that they're at the outskirts and they're no longer where the normal robots are, it feels like on the outskirts that you have these robots who were scavengers and are always looking for parts. So they start tearing the bus apart, trying to find spare parts to try and fix themselves. And our Lincoln tries to stop them because to him, that bus is his friend. And then we get all these whoops and red flashing lights. And it turns out that there are robot police officers that are out there who are still, patrolling the areas. And they stop the scavengers from ripping the bus apart. So once the police bots get there, they start talking to all the robots that are there saying, what did you do? How did you cause this crash? Things like that. And they said, oh, we didn't do anything. We were just trying to help. Of course, they're refusing to acknowledge that they were actually trying to strip the bus. And whenever the police get there, they call for a tow to come and get the bus. And whenever they're looking at the bus, this one realizes that, hey, this bus didn't just crash. Somebody took it offline, as they destroyed the little, when he pulled off the robot. He had said that he was just trying to help. He acknowledges it right here that it was him who did that. And this is where he also tells him that the reason they crashed is he saw a human, which gets a reply of, oh, beep, from one of the droids. It's at that point that, you see code red, and all the droids try to escape. And when they do, you have these little, drones right here flashing all the droids saying reboot, reboot, reboot. But when they get to our Lincoln, he doesn't reboot. And that's an issue for them. So once they realize that he can't be reboot, the cops go from trying to protect the bus to focusing on him. They said, well, we're going to take him downtown. They'll know what to do with him there. They say here, well, what about the old bus? What are we going to do with that? Leave it here for the eaters. So basically, they go from trying to save the bus to let's just dispose of it. He's their main concern now. They throw him into the back. They're taking him out. And then here you have the bus saying, hello, can anyone hear me? I seem to be a bit confused. And then that's where we leave off. So the bus is now being left off to just being consumed by the eaters, which I don't know if it's the scrappers or if it's that big red thing. I don't know. And that's where this story ends. So like I said, it's an interesting story, but there's not a lot of action in it. But I'm definitely coming in for issue number 2. So if that sounds interesting to you, go pick up issue number 1. Give issue number 2 a shot if you feel like it, and let me know what y'all think. Okay, so here we have Dog Tag, issue number 1. So this book I was really interested in. So basically, this story takes place in World War II. I don't know if all the stories are going to be taking place during World War II, but this one is specifically. And from what I got from the synopsis, and then after reading it, it feels like whoever our main character is, they may not be an actual person that existed. They may be representing somebody who existed, but the events that are taking place in the story are actually historically accurate. So that's what this is about. If you're looking for a lot of war content in this, there's not a lot. There is some in there. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, but it's not the main focus of the story. The main focus is more like teaching you maybe untold stories or untold history or little known history that actually happened during World War II. And that's what this main story is. So I enjoyed it. But again, I am a veteran. I love history. So this was really, right down my alley. And just so you get a look of it, you can see what the art looks like. It's fine. It's fine artwork. Nothing amazing, just good. It did its job. And I enjoyed the story. I thought it did a good job, letting us know what it wanted us to know. So I did enjoy it. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, go pick it up. Again, don't be looking for a lot of action. This is more of them telling us a story. And then they give us kind of a hint of what the next story is going to be about. It feels like this is going to be more of an anthology type series. We're not going to be following one character throughout the whole series. At least that's what it feels like. I don't know. We'll find out in issue number 2. So go pick it up if that sounds interesting to you. And once again, spoilers. If you don't want to know how this story goes, time to go to the next chapter. Thanks for watching the preview. Okay, So Dog Tag issue number 1. I like this book. I thought it was a really interesting story. So for this one, we're following our character Tom Fuller, and he's been called into the office of this captain or major, I believe, colonel. He's a colonel, and Tom Fuller is actually a military journalist, and he does a lot of these little cartoons and basically your stars and stripes type story. And they want to send him, I believe, to North Africa or something, to a staging area. And he thinks that he's going to be joining General Patton on getting set up for the invasion of Normandy, or the invasion of Europe, because at this point, D-Day hadn't happened, Normandy hadn't happened, and he thinks he's being sent out to report on the invasion. But actually, what's happening is they want him to go to North Africa because they're going to set up a dummy army there. They're going to make it seem like they're staging, thousands of troops and tanks and vehicles out there. And because they feel like the Germans, they're trying to throw off the scent of the Germans of where they're going to attack. And, if they want to attack at Normandy, they don't want the Germans to have all their forces over there. They want them to split them up so they have them in different areas. And they actually have these inflatable tanks that are made of rubber that they have out there all staged out. They have fake troopers, dummy troopers that they drop to show them like they're actually training and things like that. And they want Tom Fuller there because he's going to be writing articles for Stars and Stripes, basically telling them, hey, this is what's going on here. We're doing training. It's boring out here. More hurry up and wait. So basically, they're going to use him for propaganda. They want him to be propaganda because to them, they feel like if they leak out fake, messages to the Germans, about what they're going to do, that the Germans may interpret that as like, hey, they might be trying to throw us off the scent. But if the Germans find articles in the Stars and Stripes talking about what life is like there, it's going to make it more real. Because why would they do that if this is what's going on there? So at first, Tom Fuller does not like it because he feels like he's an actual journalist, but we find out that he was a high school journalist, and they're saying we have real journalists who do this for a living. If we wanted a real journalist, we would have brought one up here. What we need from you is to do this. Can you do it? So of course Tom agrees, and then we find out that D-Day actually happens. So that's where we see this right here. D-Day is now happening, and it worked. Having that fake army out there really worked. And then Tom Fuller gets called into another office and says, hey, you're needed up at Normandy. So he gets sent out, and they tell him, you're not fighting, you're going to help the doc that's over there. So he goes out there to help this doc who's taking in all the wounded, and basically he's just working triage with the doc, and that's now what he's doing. So we have all the people coming in from the ships who are injured, and they're being laid out, and him and the doc, basically what they're doing is the doc is saying, hey, I'm not here to save anybody, I'm just here to help them transition into death. And that's what this is. So the reason why this is called Dog Tag is because basically he becomes, private dog tag. You see the doc right here working on the patient. He has the guy for his cover, and he dumps all the dog tags in there. So basically, as he treats all the injured the best he can to make them as comfortable as they can, but basically every man there is gonna die. So he gives them, medicine or probably painkillers, something like that, morphine, to help calm them down, help them not feel the pain as they transfer into death. And then they collect the dog tags of the dead. And that's what happens here. So it gets kind of deep right there. And then, you see them after it, taking a smoke, trying to figure out what they're going to do. You see another ship coming in with more wounded, and that's their job right now. So it does get, very dark right there, where basically you think he's coming to help him, save some people. And no, that's not the case at all. It was just they're there to transition all these people into death as humanely as possible. So then he goes back to his place. You can see that they're taking bayonets to the tanks and they're taking it all down because the plan worked. They congratulate him. He gets a Bronze Star for what he did. That the colonel basically tells him, I felt like these relay races and these side bets that were happening were actually taking place. So you did a great job. We couldn't tell any difference between what you were writing before and here. So we're sure the enemies fell for it, and we appreciate you. But now we have a new mission for you. So next up, the colonel gives him his next assignment. He's going to be sent off to France to actually fight in the war. So that's where this issue ends. I really did enjoy it. The artwork was fine. It was good enough for what they needed to tell the story. I enjoyed it. Again, it's not an action-packed book, but I really liked it. So if that sounded like something for you, go pick it up, give it a read, and check out issue number 2. And thanks for watching the review. All right, we're down to the last book. Here we have Absolute Superman, issue number 19. So if you're reading Absolute Superman, then you should know where we're at. If you don't, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the storyline here, or the storyline of the last issue, was we have Absolute King Shazam showing up. And in the last panel of issue number 18, you see the hand bust out through the ground, and it is our Absolute Shazam, but that's all we see. We just see the hand busting out from the ground, which is basically what you see in the cover of issue A. And this one just continues on. We have the battle between Absolute Superman and Absolute Shazam, and we have another character who shows up in here and joins in the battle. And we may have also a cameo appearance from a character who has not appeared in Absolute Superman yet. So that's it. That's the basis of the storyline of what's going on here. I enjoyed this book. I have been enjoying Absolute Superman since issue number 1. Check out Absolute Superman. It's really good. And from here on out, spoilers. You don't want to be spoiled. You don't want the story ruined for you. This is the last chapter. So thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you on the next video. But if you don't care about spoilers, here we go. So we don't actually start off where we left off in issue number 18. We start off with John Henry right here, which is our Absolute Steel. He's working in a slaughterhouse, and obviously this thing is messed up. We're getting clogged up here, but we have another guy coming to talk to him, letting him know that, hey, we have another issue. The kill shoot isn't working, and we need you to go handle it. And John Henry says, oh, well, I'm supposed to be clocking out because I've been here since 5 in the morning, but, I'll go handle it. He's like, no, we need you to handle this the old-fashioned way. Just muscle and steel. And gives him the hammer. You see the cow there, and you see John Henry. And then you also see these characters in the background. They're just other workers on the line. Basically, the line is down until these, get slaughtered. So he's saving the day, having to do the manual labor, and you hear these guys in the background telling him thank you. He's obviously working on their car, working on different AC systems for their family and things like that. And he talks about how he had a idea where he created this shock system which will neutralize somebody without harming them. And he had a multi-million-dollar contract with the Lazarus Corporation, but obviously he's only here making like $7 an hour, I think he said. So somehow he got screwed over, and you can tell by the fact that they're all telling him all the things he can fix. He's really smart, but somehow he just got screwed over, and he basically calls himself, he's the American dream. So that's where he's at. Then we get back to King Shazam, and when we see King Shazam, it is actually Black Adam. It is Tet Adam who is here, and he is trying to find out where he is, how much time has passed, where has he been. Superman tries to calm him down, and Superman gets laid out. He ends up, I think it says, 11,000 miles away, or 1,100 miles away, he gets knocked out by King Shazam. And they talk about in here how Superman has these quick reflexes, that he's able to process things at a rate that no one thought was possible, and that he didn't see the punch coming from absolute King Shazam. So once we're there, you see Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul here, and you have Steel, John Henry here coming after Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul now tries to walk up to absolute King Shazam and lets him know that it was I who woke you. This world is corrupt, but I was one of the most despicable humans you could have ever thought of. I kept the world down. I kept the people down. I tried to keep them enslaved for my own good. I was one of the most despicable men you would have ever known. And yet I have changed. The man that you hit basically helped change me, and there is still good in the world. So he is trying to reason with Tet Adam right here. And Tet Adam says, well, when I was bestowed by the powers, I was given the wisdom of Solomon, and I know a lie when I hear it. And Ra's al Ghul tries to tell him, I am not lying, but before he even finishes, Tet Adam just destroys him and shreds him into pieces. And that's when we have absolute Superman busting back in. So then we get the fight between absolute King Shazam and absolute Superman, and they are just wreaking havoc. It's being described by John Henry that their punches are like lightning. Their eardrums are being busted as things happen, and they are just going at supersonic speed, and that they're throwing like punches in microseconds and milliseconds is how fast and how hard they are throwing. And the fight continues, but here we see that after absolute Ra's al Ghul is taken out, the whole point for Lois and Jimmy being there is she wanted her revenge from Talia, because Talia had killed Lois's father. And when Superman realizes that what's happening, he stops the middle of the fight with absolute King Shazam's, confronts Lois, tells her that that's not the right way to do it, asks her why she took off her watch, that it's meant there to protect her, and puts it back on her, takes her gun and crushes it, and then goes back into battle because he does not want her to kill Roz's daughter. So Superman meets back up with absolute King Shazam in the air, and King Shazam says, what are you? You are nothing but a copy of me. Who is it that made you and tried to make you a copy of me? Where Superman tells him, I am not a copy of you. I am something different. Absolute King Shazam doesn't believe it. They have their little showdown, and then the fight continues. So here we have John Henry looking down from the rubble of what's going on, and then even though he knows that he can't do anything to them, really, that their punches, the heat in the air is as hot as the surface of the sun, he decides he's got to try and do something. So he takes his rocket boots, shoots up there, gives it everything he got, and just clocks absolute King Shazam with his hammer. And from then on, you see that they are just fighting all three at subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic speeds as they fly through all these different areas, how fast they're going. And here you see they actually pass through the sky of Gotham, and we see absolute Batman right here. So this is the first time that we've actually seen absolute Batman in an absolute Superman book. So hopefully that means soon we're going to be getting the crossover between them two, as we already did get it with him and Wonder Woman, which was fantastic if you didn't read that. They land here on what looks like this beach, deserted beach. You can see that Superman is hurt, and Tet Adam stands right up and continues to beat him. And here we have Steel trying to get up. He's in pain. Superman is able to hit Tet Adam with his heat vision, And here we have Absolute Hawkman showing up to the fight. So now we have a fourth hitting, and here we go. Here's the last panel. We have a standoff between Absolute Hawkman, Superman, Steel, and Teth Adam. And so far, Teth Adam has not only been able to hold his own against Absolute Superman, he has been dominating this fight, even with the help of Absolute Steel and his hammer. And that's where this issue ends. So again, another fantastic read, an action-packed book from Absolute Superman number 19. If you're not reading this, hopefully that's a reason for you to start picking it up and reading it. It's fantastic. This was a really great, fun read. A lot of action. I love the artwork in this. I can't wait for issue number 20. And that was my last book. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what you thought. How did I do with my reviews? Did I give out too much information on the spoiler part? Did I give out too little information on the non-spoiler part? I'm new at this, but again, I did have people asking would I mind doing some reviews on some of the books? And like I said, right now I happen to be caught up on a lot of series, so I was able to do this, and I had some extra time this week to be able to do it. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment, give me a like. I'll judge it by whether I keep doing these by how many likes and comments I have. Hopefully all of you enjoyed it. I did the best I can. This is only the second time I've done this. And then also give me some helpful tips on what I should do. Do you like it where I'm holding up the book and I open up the pages, or would you prefer if I put screenshots in here and had screenshots of the pages up here instead of me holding it? Let me know. I appreciate all of you watching. I appreciate all of your feedback, and I'll see y'all next time.